Right, so we're back for the second part of food supply chain. Okay, so look at threats. Inevitably we'll mention COVID, which is continuing evidence development. We'll talk about edible landscapes, which aren't the foodscapes we saw a bit earlier on. And then we'll start thinking about ways in which we can, in the future, more effectively manage the food chain, traceability and using blockchain. And then just to finish off a video to have a look at, which I guess speaks to issues of scale in food production. Okay, so threats to the food supply chain. As you will imagine, this section will, in the future, and very soon will need updating based on two major current issues, Brexit and the coronavirus. These are the main challenges we face in the foreseeable future. The world population currently stands at around 8 billion. By 2100, this will have risen to around 11 billion, although the rate of increase is expected to slow considerably by then. This is linking through to populationpyramid.net, which is a very good resource in this area. Right, so I stopped out there a minute to open up populationpyramid.net. A population pyramid is a visual representation of the population of a country, or in this case the world, based on age and gender. So, for example, if you look at the United Kingdom, the United Kingdom is said to be a mature, developed country, and it has a typical sort of shape like this. Not really so much of a pyramid, but if you compare to somewhere, for example, like Japan, look at Japan. Notice Japan, you see how Japan expanded towards the top end to the older people. Japan is one of the oldest, relatively older population in the country, but then you compare to somewhere, for example, Uganda in Africa, we'll notice its population tends to be more focused around younger people. So I've got Uganda there, I've got Uganda there. So that's well worth having a look at. Okay, so I'll get rid of that. Right, okay, so as I mentioned, the three main challenges: population growth, which will continue for most of the rest of the century, climate change, and resource depletion. And adding in this, obviously, we would include now the impact of serious worldwide pandemics. Okay, so here's the global food security analysis. This was a UK cross-government programme into research on food security. As you might imagine, it's been considering these key issues. The Bracing in the UK for Food System for Multiple Shocks report is a reasonable review of the issues, if rather short in some proposed solutions, other than generic solutions around the need to build slack into the food system through redundancy, for example, by increasing food storage capacity, the need to diversify our food supply, and the building of resilience of food production to climate change through biology and best practice farming. Yes, well, okay, that's fair enough, but how do we do that? With respect to the impact on climate, in 2020, only 37.5% of the wheat could be planted due to heavy rain. And the droughts and rainfall that followed that have produced poor quality crop yields, crops with inevitably low yields. This information is linked through in notes if you're interested in having a read of it. We'll notice quite a significant change over that year. Quite a really big change, actually. Which just shows how weather, climate can significantly impact a single crop. And remember, we talked earlier about the fact that there are a relatively small number of crops which produce a very high amount of our food. Looking more widely, coffee is mainly grown in South America, Central America and Asia. These regions are among the most vulnerable to climate impacts. Rapid environmental changes in these areas are already changing coffee production in countries like Colombia, Vietnam and Honduras. And again, there's usual links there if you want to have a read. Imagine a world without your daily cup of Starbucks. Well, I don't have a daily cup of Starbucks, but never mind. This article asks presumably rhetorically. And it links to the various issues. Leaving Starbucks aside, obviously coffee is a major food commodity, which is coming under pressure because of climate change, and there's a number of reasons why, which are covered quite well in this image. Considering the coffee crisis, there are optimal and absolute growing conditions of Arabica and Robusta coffee described here in terms of temperature, rainfall and soil pH. Climate change is already starting to impact on production, and in particular where coffee can be grown. This is a prediction for the future, where we are now and where we're likely to be by 2050. Note the predicted increases in the height of the growing range. As you go up a mountain, the problem is the area for growing decreases. And as a note, there is effectively no land for production above 1,800 metres in Nicaragua. So it's not possible to calculate a future upper attitudinal limit for Nicaragua based on these changes. Brexit. This study was published in Food Science and Technology about 3 years ago. It was largely ignored, even by many in the food transporting industry. Many of the predictions have been borne out by recent events, especially over the past few weeks. COVID, etc. Here's a report from Nature. The vulnerability of UK's United Kingdom's food supply chains has been exposed by COVID-19. The report notes that insufficient capacity in domestic food production, just-in-time supply chains and Brexit-related labour market shortages have weakened the UK's food system. Building redundancy and diversity in the food system is essential for resilience in the COVID-19 recovery, which is the good ideas we talked about from the previous report. The question is, how do we do that? Again, an image taken from the report. The discussion notes the complexity of food supply chains and how they must become more optimised to maximise flow of resources through systems. However, the report also notes that this optimisation may result in little or no redundancy for any part of the network. So if there's a problem in any part of the network, it blocks up the whole network. The process shown here indicates that all parts of the system are waiting for each other, a characteristic of just-in-time systems. A situation that can't be resolved without external intervention and may lead to deadlock, as the report defines it. So far, the food industry has done very well in maintaining supplies. How well this continues as the pandemic lengthens remains to be seen, with the added problems being placed, of course, by Brexit. Going back to Garnis et al., they suggest a new strategic plan to reorientate the UK food system to grow more food sustainably in the UK. Again, see the report for more details, and it got some good suggestions here. New models, vertical farming. We'll talk about hydroponics later in the module. Skills and training for farmers so they can diversify. I've spelled farmer wrong there, but you'll forgive me. Investing in digital automation, and something which is problematic, I guess, at the moment, more international collaboration. Okay, here's a local approach. Edible landscapes. There's a couple of good videos there. There's a TED talk there, which is well worth having a look at. Link through to Incredible Edible. So this is a local approach. Pam Warhurst and the Edible Landscape Project. Videos really well worth watching. Pam visited us last year and has links to the Teesside University Student Nutrition Society. So if you aren't a member of that, why aren't you a member of that? Okay, traceability, which we've talked about a few times in this and how complex it is. There's a definition based on EU law. Under EU legislation, traceability means the ability to track any food, feed, food processing, animal substance that will be used for consumption through all stages of production, processing and distribution, which is quite a big ask. A few years ago it would have been impossible. There are ways in which you're making it very practical now, and it can be done in many ways. The problem is at the moment there are many technical definitions of traceability in the processes involved. As usual, click on the links if you're interested. Here are a couple of examples from the EU document and one linked on the previous slide about how we trace things and the sort of information that's placed on this. So there's country codes there, the cattle passport information, which some of you may be familiar with. This is a graph. I did a search in Scopus looking at food traceability over the period 1979 up to 2016, and we'll notice a dramatic increase over the past few years. And that's because, to an extent, it's become technologically feasible. It's very much a growing area with lots of interest in the food industry, regulatory authorities and researchers. Olsen and Borrett, as the paper notes, there are many different traceability systems. When this paper was done, this review, they've identified over 100 different definitions of traceability, which is not fantastically useful. The authors attempt to define some key aspects of the physical objects being transported in terms of things called traceability units as defined here. They are logical quantities for different multiples of products, and I think they make sense. So a trade unit might be a bottle of something, which is then placed in a logistic unit, which is a pallet containing a large number of them, which are produced in the production facility in large batches. So it does make a certain amount of sense. And the authors also suggested some key data that will be required to effectively manage supply chains. Again, see the paper for more details. So here's an example of a transformation that may take place during the food supply chain from initial fishing of this innocent cod. It gets caught, it gets processed in various ways and turned into fish fingers, which are eventually supplied to a consumer via a retailer. The technology has a potential to transform supply chain management. It says China management, it's chain management, especially in light of cross-border trade. Another issue which we've seen arising in the past few weeks from Brexit and the UK's withdrawal from the EU Customs Union. Barcodes are very widely used, and there's also increasing use of radio frequency identification tags, which you may also see in clothing shops, for example. This is technology where digital data recorded in RFID tags or smart labels are connected by a reader via radio waves. So it makes it easy to use is the point of these. The people who are recording things in the various parts of the supply chain don't have to be fantastically technically savvy. They just have to scan things, perhaps with a phone, with a barcode reader or a QR code reader, or maybe just read an RFID tag, and the system should manage it for them. Some key definitions. Food business operator is a legal term in the UK and many other areas. It has some technical legal definitions, and we'll mention a couple here. A natural person is a human being, as you might expect. However, there is also the concept of a legal person, which is a legal name, rights, protections, privileges, responsibilities, and liabilities in the law, just as natural persons, humans, do. But it's not necessarily an individual. It may be more than one individual, and it may be an organisation. The legal personality allows more than one natural persons to act as a single entity, defined as a composite person, considering the law separately from its individual members or shareholders for legal purposes. Now, I just mentioned this because you may come across it in your reading. Okay, Marks and Spencer's launched an interactive map of their supplies in an attempt to supply customers more information about where their products come from. It was launched with much funfair, but it's frankly not that impressive. Much more can be done in this area. Technology with potential allow consumers to follow the whole food supply chain is starting becoming available. If you click on the link, you can have a play with it. There are and hopefully will be better ways of doing this. The information here is quite minimal. Going back to Olsen and Borrett for a minute. For these reasons, we need to find a better way to record the attributes of these tradable resource units and follow them through the food supply chain. Blockchain technology provides a way of achieving this. Now watch this video for some background. Stop the video and watch this video before you continue the rest of the slides. Blockchain. So what is blockchain? Blockchain is most well known to the public for its use in managing cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. Such often dubious activities are outside the scope of this module. The underlying technology, however, has many wider applications and is potentially very useful indeed. You can read a lot about this, and there's various links here and a couple of good videos on blockchain and how it's being used, which I would recommend you have a look at. A blockchain is basically an immutable database. That is to say, once an entry has been placed in it, it can't be overwritten by someone else. So rather than data being overwritten, it's stored in data blocks which are cryptographically linked. Each new block, once validated by the network, is added to the previous one to form a never-ending chain, hence blockchain. The advantage of such a system is the blockchain is a complete record of all the data ever written and helps bring accountability to everyone using the database. As I said, see the slides on the slides here for more information. We've done a couple of master's projects looking at blockchain, and it looks like it has tremendous potential. There's a lot of interest in the food industry on this, and it potentially does allow people to be able to follow a lettuce from where it was grown to how it was harvested, how it was processed, how it was delivered to the retailer, right up to your kitchen, for example. Okay, watch this video in your own time. How to make a $1,500 sandwich in only 6 months. How to make a very expensive sandwich. I'll notice straight away it does contain some chicken related death content, so over to you if you're squeamish about that sort of thing. I certainly am. Okay, that's all folks for this particular lecture. Thanks for listening.